Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for the DailySheeple.com's Daily News Brief. I got a trifecta of Sheeple articles here that I want to go through. The first, the anti-media. We mirrored an anti-media piece today about the water failures that went on up in Flint, Michigan. I mean, what an unbelievable disaster that is, and how it's affected. How do you count how many people that catastrophe has affected? It says 4 more government officials were just charged for Flint water failures. Derek Bros reporting says on Tuesday, state prosecutors charged 4 former government employees with conspiring to violate safety rules for their roles in the Flint water crisis as a result of an April 2014 decision by one of the controversial, unelected, state-appointed emergency managers. Flint residents were exposed to dangerously high levels of lead via the city's water supply. The city's water supply was changed from the Flint River to Lake Huron, which caused highly corrosive water to leach lead from the city pipes into the water supply. Michigan prosecutors are now assigning at least part of the blame to Darnell Early and Gerald Ambrose, former city emergency managers, as well as Howard Croft, the public works superintendent, and Daughtry Johnson, a utilities manager. At a press conference, Flint District Attorney Bill Schuett said the former officials continued to operate the city water treatment plant when it was not safe to do so. Flint is a casualty of arrogance, disdain, and failure of management and absence of accountability. I will tell you that this right here is a microcosm of the bigger picture or the bigger problem, and that's government. And now that doesn't mean that I'm anti-government. However, I'm anti-control with the lack of oversight, with a lack of accountability. You can't just let these people run buck wild because they will abuse their power every time. And the issue in civil service has a lot to do with the fact that people there feel like they can't lose their jobs. And I will tell you that in most cases, that's correct. You really have to screw up repeatedly, especially if it's work performance issues. If it's work performance issues, oh my gosh, you could just go and ride the wave. Obviously, that's what these people did. They didn't give a flying you-know-what about the people or the water. I'll bet you that they probably fabricated water testing results because, hey, what could possibly go wrong? There ain't nothing in the water. And so they just overlook it. Why? Because no one else is paying attention. And people blindly trust the government to take care of them. And look at what this blind trust has gotten people. It's unbelievable that this was allowed to happen. It's also unbelievable considering how much we pay in taxes that this was allowed to happen. And that people aren't just up in arms about this and all of the abuse that happens not only at the state and federal level, but also at the local level. You see, folks, at the local level is where you have the most control. And then it's up to you to, how far do you go? And being an influence. I believe at the local level, you definitely have the power. And the power for change has to come from the bottom up. Very seldomly, if ever, does good change come from the top down. It just never does. It's something that we have to fight and claw for and scratch just to get every centimeter. And in this case, I mean, what a travesty. All the people that have been poisoned with lead because of people's oversight and arrogance. I mean, this should have been caught well before this was allowed to affect people's health in this manner. I mean, unbelievable. Lead poisoning in the 21st century in the United States. Gotta love it. Next story from the Daily Sheeple. We mirrored the Free Thought Project. School to prison pipeline complete. Listen to this. A new law makes schoolyard fights a felony. I mean, if it just doesn't get any better in America. It says on January 1st, 2017, the state of Missouri will implement a public school policy sure to accelerate the descent into police state dystopia. The Hazelwood School District put out a memo to parents and guardians stating that, according to Missouri statute, fights at school or on buses will be treated as felonies, which can result in up to 4 years of prison, fines, or probation. Gone, of course, are the days when teachers broke up fights and sent kids home, calling the parents and perhaps suspending the kid if there was a serious incident. Now you have school resource officers or local cops there that manhandle and arrest these kids if there's any sort of perceived injury or otherwise, and they'll charge them with third-degree assault, treating children cooped up in school as if they're violent adults on the streets, This is a problem. We're teaching our children prison culture in our public school system. They learn to get there at a certain time. It's slave mentality. It's something that the Rockefeller Foundation found that they needed. They didn't want free thinkers. They wanted good workers. And the best way to do that is to institute things like, let's say, the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. A lot of people think it's un-American that I say that they shouldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's not a matter of you shouldn't say it or not. It's what habits it evokes. Now, if it could be coupled with a sense of stewardship, I might be more inclined to support it. However, if you take a look at what are you pledging to? And over who? You're putting the state. You're pledging your allegiance to the state. That's a problem. Look, I'm all for feeling patriotic and wanting to save America. I'm that guy. Don't think I'm not for a second. But be very careful about who you swear oaths to and pledge your allegiance to. Because would you feel comfortable right now saying the Pledge of Allegiance, knowing what these non-representing representatives and these people in office are doing in your name all over the world? You're going to pledge allegiance to that body right now. Well, no, I pledge allegiance to America. America is a landmass. You're pledging allegiance to a flag, a piece of cloth. Let's just be real about this, So, yes, while we can respect the flag and hold it in reverence, if you will, hey, this represents ABC. Be very hesitant to going and pledging your allegiance to it, considering what it represents in this day and age. It's certainly not the romanticized version of things that you see and, of bygone days. Those days are gone, my friends. So now it's a felony. So the prison culture, it's there. Of course, public schooling, one of the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. Gotta love that. Having that Adam Weishaupt-ish agenda there, the Illuminati agenda. Of course, Karl Marx just, hey, Mr. Weishaupt, you already got 7 of these down. All I got to do is come up with 3. This is great. So, of course, it's just a continuation of that. Why? To control, to dumb down Americans and to teach them prison culture, how to be good slaves. I'm a slave. I'll be the first one to tell you. It's hard as heck for me to break out of that, having to go to a 9 to 5. My military time. Just kind of ground that into my head. I have to have routine, creature of habit. It's been absolute murder. I've been really trying over the past few months to break myself of that. And I find it extremely difficult. And I can look back at my life experience and can tell you why I feel the way I do. And a lot of it has to do with the way that I was brought up. Reverence to the state, go to school, do what you got to do, develop these habits. Only back then, we didn't have school resource officers. There were no metal detectors. I mean, sometimes there were fights. Sometimes it got nasty. But I mean, it wasn't like any more than what you would consider normal when I was in high school. So, and we made it. We made it. Now you've got lockdown drills. You've got drug sniffing dogs. They say they're bomb sniffing dogs, but I doubt it. You have all of this police state built into the public school system. And now, in the state of Missouri, if you get into a fight in the schoolyard, your kids can be charged with a felony. I mean, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And it goes also to wussifying the kids as well, because, then they don't stand up for themselves. Oh, unreal. The third TDS article tonight. Snopes wives. A Snopes wife claims husband embezzled thousands and spent it on prostitutes. But hey, they'll tell us what fake news is. Good old Melissa Dykes. She always comes up with the stories that just get under your skin. Makes you want to claw your face off. That's right. It says, well, this just takes the big fat hypocrite cake. Out today, the Daily Mail is reporting that Snopes, the supposed bastion of fact-checking, is no longer the picture-perfect, independent, husband and wife myth-busting couple just lounging around on the couch with their cat that they have claimed to be. So she says, gee, where to begin? Oh, my goodness. According to court documents, Barbara Mickelson is claiming that her now ex-husband David embezzled $98,000 of the company money and spent it on himself and prostitutes. Apparently, he was compelled to return $9,000 of the money by another legal stipulation per their lengthy and contentious divorce. The Mail reports that David is currently running Snopes with his new wife, who has spent most of her life working as an adult model and porn star and escort under the name Aaron O'Brien. And the accusations, of course, are flying. So, a facts-checking conference? Let's see here. It says, they're accusing each other of financial impropriety, with Barbara claiming her ex-husband is guilty of embezzlement and suggesting he's attempting a boondoggle to change tax arrangements, while David claims she took millions from their joint account and bought property in Las Vegas. Wow. Snopes, is that wealthy? I guess when you have David Soros bankrolling you, or George Soros bankrolling you, yeah. I guess you could do stuff like that. In court records, Barbara alleges that her ex-husband removed thousands from their business account between April and June of 2016 to pay for trips for him and his girlfriend. She claimed he spent nearly $10,000 on a 24-day personal vacation in India this year and expensed his girlfriend's plane ticket to Buenos Aires. He's been depleting the corporate account by spending monies from it on his personal expenses, said Barbara in a filing last June. She added that he needed to be suspended from using the company checkbook and debit card right away because there are no funds left in the corporate account. Oh, boy, maybe Snopes will fold. Yeah, right. David and his attorney countered that the India visit was a legitimate business trip and that he only expensed a fraction, 22.5% of it. He said he was considering setting up a fact-checking website in India. Of course he was, and he wanted to get a sense of the culture. He also said he went to Buenos Aires to attend an international fact-checking conference. Yeah, that's right. Apparently, David was mad his $240,000 salary wasn't high enough. Think about that. He wanted his salary raised, folks, from $240K to $360K, arguing that this would still be putting him well below the industry standard that he should be paid up to $720,000 a year. That's right, to fact check. I just want everybody to understand. This is the website. These are the people that determine what's real and what's fake. It don't get any better than that, folks. Oh, yeah, brought to you by the Daily Sheeple. In other news, the Washington Compost is throwing their shots across the bow at future President Trump. They did a hit piece today saying that he wants to greatly strengthen and expand U.S. nuclear capability, a radical break from U.S. foreign policy. Of course, recently, the Russians went on a modernization program, and probably good because part of the treaty that we entered into was no anti-missile defense. The whole idea of having a ballistic missile defense system kind of defeats the purpose of having all these nukes. They said, okay, well, we've got them. We shouldn't develop this because it'll spur another arms race. What did the United States do under President Bush? Start developing a missile defense. So we went off the treaty. Russia went off the treaty. Obama continued with the missile defense. Kind of scaled back on the nuclear warheads. Didn't go and modernize anything. Still using floppy disks. And so, Trump's like, okay, well, if the Russians want to go do that, well, we can do it too. The Washington Post is reporting that it could cost up to $1 trillion. $1 trillion to fortify and modernize the current missile defense system. And that's the United States nuclear triad. And that's crazy. So what it does is it covers the bombers, the submarines, the intercontinental ballistic missiles. So Pentagon's estimating it has to spend $18 billion a year over 15 years, starting in 2021, to replace weapons that have already been refurbished and upgraded beyond their original shelf life. But according to the Arms Control Association, the cost of modernizing over 30 years is about $1 trillion of today's money. And that's kind of funny because they make a valid point here. It says if Donald Trump's concerned about the rising cost of the F-35, he'll be shocked by the skyrocketing cost of modernizing the U.S. nuclear arsenal. I'd say so. It's interesting because it seems as though, and I hope that our foreign policy takes a warmer stance towards Russia here in the future, because the whole Cold War thing was a giant scam from the very first part of it straight till when the wall fell and then some. And I just got to say, love goes a lot farther. It goes a lot farther. You want to get along? No problem. Let's have some trade. Let's get along. No problem. That's not to say that you skimp on defense. You got to be ready. But to the extent of imperialism, to the extent of having 5,000 nuclear warheads, for what? What do you need that for? You can't even deliver them all. And if you did, how much would it take? Really? I mean, but I guess they have to have some place to put the waste. A good place to process waste. Let's make more nuclear weapons. That'll do it. Yeah. I'm really not a big fan of the whole nuclear thing, especially now since, we've advanced a little bit farther from fission. We could do other things for energy. Then there's fusion. They're making great strides with fusion. Who knows before it could be very soon before we have cold fusion and fusion reactors going. And if that's the case, that's great. But in the meantime, nuclear is just too dirty. And I know they say, oh, it's the cleanest energy ever. Nah, until you have an accident. And boy, it seems like we have an awful lot of accidents when it comes to nuclear energy. And just how many times are we going to just destroy the world and harm the ecosystem? And tree hugging aside, just how much is it going to take before we finally have that come to Jesus moment to say, maybe we shouldn't screw with this. It'll probably be too late. We'll probably have radiated the oceans and all that stuff by then. But glass is half full, guy. So maybe they will have a come to Jesus moment and they won't do it. I don't know. But anyway, it looks like President Trump's going to devote a lot of money towards improving that nuclear defense and deterrence. Great year 2017 to be American. Be interesting to see how 2017 plays out. I'm Joe Joseph. This was the DailySheeple.com's Daily News Brief, and I'll have one again for you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.